Hi, it's Travis White with the Persuasive Communication Tip of the Week. In a previous video, we talked about culture eats strategy for breakfast. In other words, if the strategy and the culture don't match, don't map together, strategy loses. Culture is a predominant force inside an organization. So if you want to change the strategy, you have to make sure that strategy fits with the culture. What if you want to change the strategy that doesn't fit with the culture? Then you have to change the culture, and you have to do that before you can change the strategy. So let's talk a little bit today about how do you change a culture of an organization. Well, the first thing to know is that cultures are transmitted by stories. That's how we learn the culture. We talk to people, they tell us about behaviors, they tell us about famous people within the organization, famous events, famous activities. We won this big deal because, we lost this big deal because, all of those kind of water cooler kinds of stories. So if you're going to change the culture, first thing you have to do is change the stories. What are people talking about? So if you're a leader, you're going to change the culture, first thing you want to do is some story-worthy kinds of activities. You want to do things that people will talk about, and you want your managers to do things that people will talk about. And you can seed that process. You can do interesting things. You can do things that are out of the ordinary for the culture. You can do things that are perhaps a bit surprising that send a signal to the employees, to the culture. We're changing the culture. The second thing to do as a leader is you have to be the model for the new culture. You can't simply say to your employees, you do this, you think outside the box, you behave differently. You have to lead that behavioral change. So if you want your employees to think outside the box, show them how to think outside the box by doing it yourself. And there are many different examples of that. If you want a more supportive culture rather than a critical culture, you're going to have to do that yourself. You're going to have to show how to be supportive, how to support your fellow employees and your colleagues. So change the stories and be the model for the behavior. You also want to reward that behavior. Whenever anybody acts in the new culture way, you want to highlight it, you want to reward them. That may be a bonus, that may be just personal recognition, it may be a story that you tell about that person to illustrate the new culture. So reward the new behavior, model the new behavior, reward the new behavior, recruit the new behavior. Change your hiring profile to make sure that you're looking for the behavior that you want the new culture to be. If the new culture is focused on teamwork, make sure you hire people who are good team players. And there's a variety of questions you can ask and a variety of ways you can understand whether or not they are good team players. So you should recruit, reward, you should model the behavior, and on occasion you'll have to fire people who don't model that new behavior, people who don't fit into the new culture. And then sometimes these are called public hangings, and sometimes they're necessary. I know in one company that I worked for, we had a salesperson, a very successful salesperson, but also very critical, very sarcastic, and spent a lot of time undermining his colleagues. We were trying to change to a more supportive, teamwork-oriented culture. Ultimately, though it was painful for us because he was a very successful salesperson, we had to fire that person. We had to let him go. And that sent a signal to the culture that behavior is no longer acceptable. There's a new form of behavior based on teamwork, based on mutual support. So think about the stories, do story-worthy things, model the behavior, recruit the behavior, reward the behavior, and get rid of non-compliant behaviors in the organization. That's the Persuasive Communication Tip of the Week. See you again next week.